Hey everybody, let's talk about digital audio recorders. Now if I'm in the field and I want to capture some audio, I could just pull out my phone and record it. And my phone, like a lot of smartphones these days, has some pretty good mics on it. It really works quite well. But if I'm going into a situation that I know I'm going to record, I will bring a digital audio recorder. And this is the Tascam DR-05. I thought it would be good to talk about this model because if you're thinking about getting a digital audio recorder, this unit might be on your radar because it's a really popular recorder and it's pretty inexpensive. It's one of the least expensive audio recorders. And because it's so popular, sometimes you find them on the used market for a real good price. Now this is the original DR-05, which came out years ago, and it's been superseded with the DR-05X. And I'll cover the differences between this version and the new version. I'll tell you that for me personally, I don't find the features the new version has to be compelling and worthy of an upgrade. So let's take a look at the DR-05. And I'll do a quick run through of its major features, and then I'll talk about where I think this unit really shines and where it works very well, and then some of the places where I think it doesn't work so well and some of the shortcomings, and reasons why oftentimes I would choose to grab a different recorder than the DR-05. And so hopefully by the end of this video, if you're contemplating getting a digital recorder, you'll have a good idea as to whether or not the DR-05 is the recorder for you. Maybe the most important question is, how does it sound? Well, being a digital recorder, the electronic side of it isn't really the limitation. It's the quality of the microphones that are included. And I think that these mics sound pretty good. In fact, right now you are listening to me through the DR-05 recorder, so you can get an idea as to how well it picks me up. The rest of this video, or most of the rest of this video, I was recorded using a SM57 microphone, so you can compare the sound of the prior parts of the video versus now to see how well this is picking me up. I think if you're recording a sound source that's relatively close to the portable recorder, it does a good job of picking it up. Now, the downside that I see with this unit is the microphones. And not that they're bad sounding microphones, but they're omnidirectional microphones, and they're placed really close together. And so if I was recording something that was far away, these are not the microphones that I would choose. Now, I understand the design compromises made in this product, and I probably would have done exactly the same thing. But because these are omnidirectional microphones, I don't think that they're my number one choice for recording something that is far away. For example, recording a live band in a room. Now, in the next segment here, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds of sample where I recorded a live band at a show in a bar. And I had the recorder sitting back on my mixing board at the back end of the room. And because these are omnidirectional mics, they tend to pick up everything in the environment from the sides and the rear as well as the front. I think I would have gotten a better recording if I was able to use cardioid microphones that were more directional, so I could aim them at the sound source, at the band, and get more of the band and less of the room echo and audience noise. But you can determine for yourself. So now's a good time to grab your earbuds or grab some headphones and take a listen to this sample here for about 30 seconds, and you can hear what this unit picked up at this particular show in a typical bar environment recording a band. Hey, quick pause. I hope you're enjoying the content, and if you are, I would appreciate if you would take a quick moment and click subscribe, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Subscribing to the channel helps my YouTube statistics and helps you get back to this content at a later date. If you choose to subscribe, also consider hitting that bell icon so that you're notified when new videos drop and you don't miss anything good. Here's the DR-05. To turn it on, we just press and hold the power button for a moment, and the unit boots up. To record, we press the record button one time, and you'll see that the record light begins blinking, so it is in record enabled mode, but it's paused. Then we press record button one more time briefly, and you'll see that the record light is now staying on, and it is recording audio. This unit has a nice display that shows you record levels and all of the status information that you might need to know. The DR-05X, the new version, has a different display. The original 05 has this orange-colored LCD display. The new version has a blue-colored display, which is pretty similar in layout, but can be read more easily in direct sunlight. Looking at the side of the unit, we have a door that covers the memory card, and the original DR-05 supports up to 32 gigabytes of memory. The 05X unit, the new version, supports 128 gigabytes of memory. And of course, more is more, but I've never found any practical limitations in the memory the way that my workflow works. I just capture audio on this device and then I offload it to the computer. I don't archive old files on the device. And with that kind of workflow, a few gigabytes of memory storage is more than enough for me. Down here is a USB connector, so you can connect the device to your computer to move files off of the device into the computer, or to provide remote power so that you don't have to rely upon the batteries in the device. The 05X unit can also act as a computer sound card, so you could use the microphones live on your computer. Now, in my case, I've already got a good audio interface in my computer, so I have no need for that feature. And those are the differences between the original DR-05 and the DR-05X. Aside from that, I think the two versions are pretty similar. Looking at the other side, we have a headphone output for monitoring, either monitoring what you've recorded or what you are recording. And down here is a switch for hold, which will disable all of the keypad operation so that you can start the unit recording, turn on hold, and then drop it into your pocket and not worry about anything getting disturbed. One note is if the hold button is switched on, then all of the keys will be disabled, including the power button. Up here, the unit has two microphones, which are omnidirectional condensers. And on the front of the unit, we have a 3.5 millimeter jack, which allows connection of external microphones. And so if you connect external microphones to this unit, it disables the internal mics. The unit also provides plug-in power. So if your external microphones require a little bit of DC voltage to operate, you can enable that feature in the menu in here and provide DC power for your external microphones. It uses two AA batteries to be powered, which are on the back. And with a pair of AA batteries, you can expect a runtime of approximately 10 hours of recording time. The DR-05 can record either WAV files or MP3 files, and you get a wide variety of options regarding resolution. You can record at 44.1 kilohertz sampling rate or 48 kilohertz sampling rate. You can record MP3 files with a bit rate of 32 on up to 320K. There are some nice audio processing features. For example, there's a low cut that you can either have turned off, or you can set to cut out all of the lows below 40 Hertz, 80 Hertz, or 120 Hertz to help reduce the sound of room rumble and subsonic stuff in your recordings. There's a reverb or room echo effect built in that you can enable if you want to. I never do. There's the ability to do pre-recording, so you can either have the recording start exactly when you push the record button, or you can have the recording start actually a couple of seconds before you pressed that button. So that helps you not miss anything right at the beginning of recordings. There's a built-in guitar tuner, which might be a handy feature for some. So I think the DR-05 has a good feature set and a nice package too, because it fits comfortably into your hand. It's small enough just to slip in your pocket, and it provides lots of recording time and produces high-fidelity recordings. One of the things that I appreciate about the DR-05 recorder is the way you set recording gain. There are multiple choices. You can turn off all of the automatic features and just have manual gain setting. So you watch the audio coming in on the meters, and you push the side-to-side buttons here to turn up or turn down the mic preamps until the meters read a proper level for your recording. There are other choices, such as AGC, automatic gain control, where the recorder decides what those mic gains should be and adjusts them automatically to get a proper recording for you. Now, you find AGC in a lot of consumer equipment. A lot of pros wouldn't use AGC because AGC is continuously adjusting the recording level depending upon how loud the sounds are that are coming in. And those adjustments in recording level can often be heard on playback. And so it can be a little disconcerting hearing the gains being turned up and turned down. In the DR-05, well, there's still some of those issues, but Tascam did a pretty good job of implementing AGC, and so it's not particularly intrusive. So if I'm just using this for a casual recording to document a conversation or something, I'll often use AGC and just let the recorder take care of it. And it generally, I think, does a pretty good job. Now there are two more modes. The other is peak limiting, where you manually set the record level, but if a transient peak should come along, the peak limiter will quickly kick in and reduce the gain for just a moment so that that peak doesn't distort and sound ugly on your recording. And so that works pretty well if you just have the occasional loud peak sound, and the recorder will take care of it for you. If you set the gains too high so that peak limiter is frequently kicking in on the loud passages, well, that's not going to sound very good. And then finally, there's one more mode called gain reduction. And this is a good mode if your audio has some peaks in it, but those peaks are pretty consistent. For example, let's say you're recording a band, and the first song they play is pretty quiet, but the second song they play is quite a bit louder with some good drum hits here and there. Well, gain reduction mode, as soon as there's a peak that would overload the recorder, it quickly pulls the gain down so it doesn't overload, just like the limiter does in the previous version. But instead of being a quick limiter that then releases the gain back up to where it was, it holds it at that lower level. Now this could have the artifact of sort of turning the whole recording down a little bit. But the good part is that once the recorder has knocked the gain down to accommodate that loud peak, the next time a loud peak comes along, well, it probably will be properly set gain-wise to handle it. Or there will be just a minor adjustment to handle the second loud peak. And the recorder will, if you will, seek the level of the music and automatically adjust itself for the loudest sounds. Now, the downside is in that mode, if there was one extremely large transient, for example, if you're recording a conversation and there's a gunshot nearby, well, that would knock the gain way down and hold it down, and then it would be too quiet for the rest of the recording. But if there's just normal transients within your recording, the gain reduction mode works pretty well because it just keeps nudging the recording level down until the loudest peaks are accommodated, but it doesn't keep adjusting the volume after that point, so you don't hear the volume pumping up and down. So, if you will, it preserves the dynamic range of the recording while accommodating the loudest peaks. So where do I think this recorder works well, and where do I think it has some limitations? Well, most of my reservations about this recorder are about the microphones. Now, these are a pair of omnidirectional condenser microphones, and I think they actually sound pretty good. As a matter of fact, you're listening to me right now through the DR-05 recorder, so you get an idea as to what the recording sound quality is. And since I'm sitting pretty close to the recorder, it does a decent job of picking me up. But my problem with these microphones is that they are omnidirectional and they're mounted pretty darn close to each other. So if I was going to mic an event, I probably wouldn't, in most cases, use omnidirectional mics. And I probably wouldn't, in most cases, have them so close together. And so I think the mic placement and the fact that they're omni mics is a limitation in the device. If you're recording something that's fairly nearby, for example, you're just sitting at a table having a conversation with somebody and you want to document it, this works pretty good for that. Oftentimes I'll use it for recording my phone conversations. I'll just put my phone on speakerphone, put the recorder nearby, and record the conversation. And it works good for that too. One note is that this unit does not have perfect electromagnetic radiation resistance. And so if I put it really close to a cell phone, sometimes I will hear those clicks and pops coming through, which is the radio frequency communication of the cell phone to the cell tower chattering back and forth. And so when I record my phone with this device, I keep it a foot or two away from the phone. But having said that, it works pretty well. But because these are omnidirectional mics, they hear sound pretty much equally well from all directions. And so if I'm back in the audience 40 feet from the band and I'm trying to record the band, well, it's going to do a pretty good job of picking up the band, but it's also going to do a pretty good job of picking up all of the other noises in the room, all of the reverberant sounds coming off the walls and the audience and all of that. And so I often find with this unit, when I'm recording things that are further away, I would prefer a balance of hearing more of what I'm trying to record and less of the sounds around me than I get with this unit. And so for doing recordings of things that are far away, like more than 20 feet away, this isn't my first choice. Now you could say it has an external microphone input where you can put in an external microphone or an external line signal. And so I could just use different mics. And that's true. But there's a couple downsides. That's a 3.5 millimeter stereo jack, and it is unbalanced. And so it'll accommodate some consumer microphones, and it will accommodate my lavalier microphone very nicely, so I can just clip my lav mic onto it, put the mic on me, put this in my pocket and walk around and record. Works great for that. But there's no easy way to connect professional grade microphones to this device. Microphones that use balanced 3-pin connections. Microphones that I can run a long cable with and not pick up too much interference. And then the microphone preamps that are in this device are good, but they're not great. They don't have the lowest noise floor. So if you're trying to record something that's really quiet, or you have music that has really quiet passages, this may not be the best choice. Now, I'm not saying the preamps are bad. They're good, but they're not the best, most amazing preamps. They have some background hiss in them compared to some other units that have more quiet preamps. And so for those reasons, I often grab a different recorder. I'll often grab a recorder that will allow me to use professional microphones. And so I think the lack of XLR connectors on this device is a real limitation. And a minor irritation with the DR-05 is that when you change batteries, it forgets the date and time. So the first thing you have to do is go in and set date and time. Not a big deal, but it seems like it remembers everything else. It would be nice if it would remember the date and time. In summary, the DR-05 is a great portable recorder if you can live with its limitations. If you want to record things that are far away and you want more options for using professional grade microphones, well, perhaps you should take a look at the recorder like a DR-40X, which is a very similar recorder to this one, except that it includes professional XLR type mic inputs. A recorder that I have from Tascam that I think also works well is a DR-70D. This is a 4-channel recorder that's designed to be a companion to a camera, but it also includes built-in mics, and on those 4 channels it has 4 XLR connectors, so you can plug in external microphones, and you can use a combination of either the internal mics plus the external mics, or 4 external mics, or whichever. It's flexible. And it has better microphone preamps than the DR-05. And then a recorder that I'm very fond of is the Zoom F3. The Zoom F3 is a very small recorder that accepts 2 professional microphone inputs. It does not have any built-in mics. And it is a 32-bit floating point recorder that only records WAV files in 32-bit floating point. And so it has tremendous dynamic range and very good mic preamps. But it has no built-in mics, so using the Zoom requires the use of an external microphone. So there are options out there, and I wish you well in your pursuit of the perfect digital recorder for you.